Somewhere over a darkened countryside, a swarm of cheap propeller-driven drones is grinding toward a city. Each one carries a warhead worth a few $1,000s. Each one is expendable. And each one forces the defender into the same brutal arithmetic. Do you fire a missile that costs $500,000 to kill a drone that costs $20,000? Do it enough times and the attacker doesn't even need to hit the target. He just needs to keep launching until your missile stockpile is empty and your budget's in ruins. That's the crisis rewriting modern air defense, and the answer to it may not be a 6th-generation stealth jet or a directed energy weapon still stuck in prototype. It may be a turboprop that first flew in 1999 and was originally designed to chase insurgents through jungle valleys. The Embraer A-29 Super Tucano is being reborn as a drone killer, and the logic behind it reveals something the defense world has been slow to accept. Sometimes the most modern weapon is the cheapest one you can afford to keep in the air. To understand why a propeller-driven aircraft is suddenly relevant in a war defined by cruise missiles and loitering munitions, you have to understand what makes drone swarms so dangerous in the first place. A one-way attack drone like the Iranian-designed Shahed 136 is not sophisticated. It flies at roughly 115 miles per hour, navigates by GPS and inertial guidance, and carries a warhead designed to detonate on impact. It has no evasive maneuvers to speak of, it has no stealth coating, it has no countermeasures. By every traditional metric of air power, it's a joke. But the Shahed is not designed to win on quality, it's designed to win on volume and cost. If you can build 100 of them for the price of one interceptor missile and launch them in waves night after night, you create a problem that no traditional air defense architecture was designed to solve. Surface-to-air missile batteries burn through their magazines. Fighter jets scramble, fire their missiles, return to base, rearm, and scramble again. Each sortie costing tens of thousands of dollars in fuel and maintenance alone, and each missile costing many times more than the target it destroyed. Over weeks and months, the math is devastating. The defender is spending orders of magnitude more than the attacker. That imbalance is not theoretical. Ukraine has lived it since the autumn of 2022, when Russia began launching Shaheds in nightly waves against Ukrainian cities and infrastructure. The Ukrainians have gotten remarkably creative in response. They've used everything from legacy Soviet-era anti-aircraft guns to shoulder-fired missiles to pick-up trucks with mounted machine guns to small civilian drones rigged to ram incoming Shaheds. Some of these improvised solutions have worked better than anyone expected. Mobile gun teams stationed along known drone corridors have shot down Shaheds with heavy machine gun fire, sometimes aided by nothing more than a car headlight or a handheld thermal imager. But improvisation has limits. Machine gun teams on the ground have a narrow engagement window. They rely on sound and visual cueing that's unreliable in bad weather. They can't cover wide areas, and they cannot reposition quickly enough when attack routes shift. The question hanging over all of this is obvious. What if you could put that same kind of cheap direct fire engagement capability into the sky, give it sensors that work in total darkness, and let it patrol for hours over the corridors the drones are using? That's precisely the role the Super Tucano is being optimized to fill. The A-29 was designed by Embraer as a multi-role light combat aircraft built on the lineage of the EMB-312 Tucano trainer. But unlike trainer with weapon conversions that are essentially compromises, the Super Tucano was conceived from day one as a combat platform. Its airframe is stressed for +7 and -3.5 Gs, its cockpit and engine are armored, its fuel tanks are self-sealing. It has a configurable defensive suite that can include radar warning receivers, missile approach warning systems, and chaff and flare dispensers. It's not a stealth aircraft, and it was never intended to penetrate a high-end integrated air defense network. But it was built to survive and keep operating in the contested, messy, low-altitude environments where light attack aircraft actually do their work. The numbers tell the persistent story. The A-29 is powered by a Pratt & Whitney Canada PT6A 68C turboprop, producing roughly 1,600 shaft horsepower. It cruises at about 280 knots, maxes out around 320, and stalls at about 80. With internal fuel alone, it can loiter for roughly 3.5 hours. Add external tanks and an electro-optical infrared sensor pod, and endurance stretches to about 5 hours and 12 minutes. Maximum range with 3 external tanks is roughly 1,780 nautical miles. Its service ceiling is around 35,000 feet, and its rate of climb is about 3,200 feet per minute. Those are air patrol numbers, and what makes them matter is that counter-drone defense is increasingly an air patrol problem. Now let's talk about the money, because money is where this aircraft separates itself from almost everything else in the inventory. Operators and integrators have cited A-29 operating costs on the order of roughly $1,500 per flight hour. To put that in perspective, a fourth-generation fighter like the F-16 costs somewhere between $20,000 and $25,000 per flight hour, depending on variant and operator. An F-35 is north of $30,000. Even a relatively efficient platform like the MQ-9 Reaper drone costs several thousand per hour. $1,500 an hour means you can afford to keep the Super Tucano airborne night after night, patrolling the same corridors, waiting for the threat that may or may not come. And when it does come, the cost of the engagement itself continues to favor the defender. The A-29 carries two internal wing-mounted 12.7mm machine guns with about 200 rounds per gun. Because they're mounted internally, all 5 external hardpoints remain free for fuel, sensors, or weapons. Those guns are effective against smaller reconnaissance drones when you can close the distance, but the real counter-drone weapon is the laser-guided 70mm rocket. The Super Tucano can carry pods of Hydra 70 rockets fitted with the BAE Systems APKWS guidance kit, which turns a standard unguided rocket into a semi-active laser-guided precision munition. The cost of an APKWS round is estimated at roughly $20,000 to $30,000, a fraction of the cost of an AIM-9X Sidewinder, which runs well over $400,000, or an AMRAAM, which approaches $2 million per round. Match that against a Shahed drone that costs perhaps $20,000 to $50,000 to build, and the economics of interception finally balance. You're spending comparable money to kill the threat, not 10 or 20 times more. And because the A-29 can carry multiple rocket pods, a single sortie can engage several targets before returning to rearm. Scale that across a squadron of Super Tucanos operating in rotation, and you begin to see a sustainable defensive architecture rather than a losing financial equation. But the aircraft alone isn't the full picture. The Super Tucano doesn't find drones by itself. Shaheds and similar one-way attack drones have small radar cross-sections, low infrared signatures, and they fly at low altitudes where ground clutter makes radar detection difficult. Hunting them cold with onboard sensors wastes time and fuel. The real operational concept is queuing. Ground-based radars, passive acoustic detection networks, even civilian spotters feeding data into a command network detect incoming drone raids and vector the A-29 into the right piece of sky. Once in the vicinity, the pilot or weapons systems operator uses the electro-optical infrared turret to visually acquire the target, confirm its identity, establish a laser designation solution, and fire. In this model, the Super Tucano is not the sensor. It's the shooter at the end of a kill chain that starts on the ground. It's the last mile. That distinction matters because it means the aircraft doesn't need a massive radar or an advanced electronic warfare suite. It needs a good infrared sensor, a laser designator, a stable weapons platform, and the endurance to be in the right place when the call comes. So what does it actually feel like to fly one of these things on a counter-drone mission at 2 in the morning? The Super Tucano cockpit's a modern glass layout with hands-on throttle and stick controls, night vision goggle compatible, designed to keep workload low and the pilot's eyes outside the canopy as much as possible. For most of its operational history, the A-29 has been flown in a 2-seat configuration with a pilot up front and a weapons systems officer in the rear seat handling the sensor turret and weapons employment. But newer variants, particularly the A-29N developed for NATO-aligned customers, include provisions for single pilot operation, meaning one aviator can fly the aircraft and prosecute targets simultaneously. Training for counter-drone missions builds the same skill set that Super Tucano pilots have been developing for decades in counterinsurgency operations, low-altitude patrol, night flying with goggles, sensor interpretation, and weapons delivery against small or fleeting targets. A typical training pipeline for a Super Tucano pilot begins with basic turboprop instruction and progresses through tactical formation, low-level navigation, weapons employment, and night operations. Pilots learn to manage the electro-optical infrared turret, to slew it onto targets called out by ground controllers, and to maintain situational awareness across multiple information sources while flying in darkness at low altitude. The transition to counter-drone operations adds another layer of complexity. Unlike a ground target that stays still, a Shahed is moving at over 100 miles per hour, and the intercept geometry changes continuously. Pilots train on pursuit curves, closure rate management, and the discipline of holding fire until the laser designation solution is stable enough to guarantee a hit. There's no room for wasted rounds when every engagement needs to be economical. What changes most in the drone hunting role is tempo. Shaheds often arrive in waves, sometimes dozens in a single night, and the time from detection to engagement can be measured in seconds. That requires not just flying skill, but rapid decision-making under stress. The ability to distinguish a hostile drone from a friendly aircraft or a false return, and smooth coordination with ground controllers who are managing the wider air picture. The pilot must trust the cueing data, fly to the intercept point, acquire the target on infrared, confirm it's hostile, establish designation, and fire, then immediately begin scanning for the next one. It's intense, repetitive, high-stakes work conducted in darkness and often in poor weather. And unlike fast jet intercepts that last minutes, the Super Tucano counter-drone sortie can stretch for hours, demanding sustained concentration at a level that tests even the most experienced aviators. This is also why Embraer's latest upgrade path matters. In early 2026, the company announced a partnership with Valkyrie Aero to integrate an AI-enabled decision support suite called Gunslinger into the A-29 for manned counter-UAS missions. The system's not designed for autonomous engagement. It's designed to accelerate the human decision cycle by helping the crew move from detection to identification to weapons release more efficiently, especially when multiple targets are inbound simultaneously. Think of it as an intelligent assistant that processes sensor data faster than a human can, highlights potential targets, suggests engagement sequences, and reduces the cognitive load on a pilot who may be dealing with a swarm of 10 or 15 drones arriving on different vectors over the course of an hour. Alongside Gunslinger, broader modernization efforts are moving the A-29 fleet toward enhanced connectivity. The A-29N adds new data links. Brazil's A-29M modernization program for its existing fleet includes a wide area display concept, expanded guided weapons integration, and stronger networking with ground controllers and other airborne assets. These upgrades are not glamorous, they don't add stealth or supersonic speed, but they are precisely the ingredients needed when the mission demands detecting, classifying, and engaging multiple low-signature targets while sharing tracks in real time across a distributed defense network. All of this invites a larger question. What does the Super Tucano actually represent in the arc of military aviation? There's a useful thought experiment, sometimes called the modern Mustang concept. During World War II, the P-51 Mustang was the definitive air superiority fighter of its era, a piston-engine aircraft with long range, good speed, and the ability to escort bombers deep into enemy territory. The Mustang worked because it matched the threat of its time. It wasn't the fastest fighter ever built, it wasn't the most maneuverable, but it had the range to stay with the bombers all the way to Berlin and back, and it could be produced in sufficient numbers to overwhelm the Luftwaffe through sustained attrition. Now imagine taking that philosophy and applying it to today's threat environment. You wouldn't build a replica of the P-51, you'd build a platform optimized for persistence, economy, and the ability to engage large numbers of cheap targets. You would want something that could operate from austere airfields, stay airborne for hours, carry weapons matched in cost to the targets it was hunting, and be produced and maintained affordably enough to field in-squadron strength without bankrupting the defense budget. That's exactly what the Super Tucano is becoming. The modern Mustang is not defined by speed or maneuverability, it's defined by the willingness to match the threat at the threat's level rather than over-engineering the response. The P-51 didn't try to outperform the Me-262 jet fighter by building a faster piston engine. It succeeded because its mission, range, and numbers aligned with the strategic need. In that same sense, the A-29 is the spiritual successor to every great workhorse fighter that won its war not by being the fastest or most advanced, but by being available, reliable, and sustainable in the quantities needed. If you asked an aircraft designer today to build the cheapest possible manned interceptor optimized specifically for killing slow propeller-driven drones, you'd end up with something that looks remarkably like the Super Tucano. A turboprop, armored, sensor-equipped, armed with guided rockets, and able to fly 5-hour patrols at a fraction of the cost of anything with a jet engine. This also places the Super Tucano in a broader evolution of the light attack and coin aircraft concept. Counterinsurgency aircraft were born out of the realization that using fast jets to bomb guerrilla camps was like using a sledgehammer on a thumbtack. The OV-10 Bronco, the A-37 Dragonfly, the Tucano family itself all emerged from the idea that some missions need persistence and precision more than speed and payload. For decades, this category was seen as a niche, relevant only to low-intensity conflicts in the developing world. But the drone revolution has upended the hierarchy. The proliferation of cheap, unmanned systems means that even high-end militaries now face a threat that behaves like an insurgency in the sky, distributed, expendable, and designed to exhaust expensive defenses through sheer volume. The light attack aircraft, once relegated to the margins, has suddenly found itself at the center of a problem that nobody else can solve affordably. The Super Tucano's combat record reinforces this. In Colombia, it flew years of counterinsurgency operations, including night precision strike missions. In Afghanistan, it became the Afghan Air Force's primary fixed-wing close air support platform, flying thousands of strike sorties and eventually employing laser-guided munitions in combat. Nigeria has used the type against violent armed groups in sustained operational deployments. None of those conflicts are identical to a modern drone war, but they prove the aircraft's core attributes under pressure: endurance, reliability, maintainability, and the ability to deliver precise effects night after night without the cost burden of a fast jet fleet. Competitors exist, and some of them are capable. The Beechcraft AT-6 Wolverine is the obvious turboprop rival. Armed trainer platforms like the KAI KA-1 or concepts based on the Pilatus PC-21 can cover parts of the mission, but the A-29's edge is maturity. It has built-in guns, a combat record spanning multiple continents, a well-developed ecosystem of sensors and precision weapons, and now a purpose-built counter-UAS package combining data link queuing and AI-enabled decision support. That combination of proven hardware, operational experience, and targeted modernization is difficult for newer entrants to replicate quickly. The drone era is forcing a redefinition of what modern means. Sometimes modern is stealth and hypersonic speed and sensor fusion across a fleet of fifth-generation fighters networked by satellite. But sometimes modern is a turboprop with a good infrared sensor, a laser designator, a cheap guided rocket, and the ability to stay airborne for 5 hours over a threat corridor while costing $1,500 an hour to operate. The Super Tucano was built for long, grinding, unglamorous fights. It was built for the kind of war where the enemy's strategy is exhaustion and the defender's only viable counter-strategy is endurance. With the right upgrades, it may also be one of the most rational answers yet to the drone swarms that are reshaping warfare right now. Not because it's the best aircraft ever built, but because it's the right aircraft for a problem that punishes excess and rewards economy. And the lesson it carries is broader than any single aircraft or any single conflict. The most dangerous weapon is not always the most expensive one. Sometimes it's the one you can afford to use every single night until the threat is gone. And if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell for more content like today's. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.